All right, we're going to stay down in Texas, talk to another Texas governor, the present Texas governor, that being Mr. Greg Abbott of the great state of Texas. Governor, thank you very much. Before we begin, I want to talk about TikTok, but may I send my condolences to the family of the border agent who lost his life. My condolences to him, to his family, rather, and to you and the state of Texas. It's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing.
Well, listen, it's a tragedy, but it's also shocking the way that the Biden administration has responded to this, because it was close in time when Joe Biden himself was near the border, and when he was asked about going to the border itself, he said he had more important things to do. And here we have a life lost of one of the men who is guarding not just the border, but is trying to maintain national security. And we have a president who has abandoned his responsibility to safeguard our national security with his open border policies. So it's a travesty that we have to have men and women guarding our borders because the Biden administration is not stepping up and securing it. It's also obviously a travesty that we lost a life of one of the brave men who serves our country on the border. And we wish his family all the best, and we will keep his family in our prayers.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Amen to that. Now, on another matter, you are kicking TikTok out of the state of Texas, at least out of the government employee users. We're now up to several states. Let's see, we got South Dakota, Texas, Indiana, Maryland, and South Carolina. Now, this TikTok story, I don't know why it hadn't been kicked out of the whole country. This information, personal whereabouts, this stuff goes right into their communist Chinese owners and managers in Beijing. I mean, that's the way I read it.
Well, Larry, you're exactly right. But let's emphasize this point, and that is this is a bipartisan issue. The Biden administration, as well as both Republicans and Democrats in Congress, as well as leaders across states across the United States, we all realize the dangers that exist because of TikTok and because of the CCP's ability to monitor and have access to anything and everything on TikTok. And what I'm telling you is not information that I'm making up. It comes from the FBI director himself, where he said that the CCP can use what is on TikTok for espionage-based purposes, for surveillance, and even for trying to influence young boys and girls in the United States of America. This is an extraordinary existential threat to our country. And all of us, Democrats and Republicans, in Washington and across the states, we are all right and righteous to lay down the law and prohibit the use of TikTok, definitely on any state-based type of phone or other device. But also we need to come to a reckoning across our country that this poses a danger in our country.
Well, Governor, I mean, Trump tried to, by the way, ban the app altogether. Then we wanted to ban TikTok altogether. But, you know, reading up on this, I mean, this is a nasty story. Unlike, you know, your typical social media operation, TikTok can access user locations without the knowledge, by the way, of the individual. That's part of the surveillance you mentioned a few moments ago. They've got browser trackers. They've actually got some kind of fingerprinting technologies. I was not aware of that. And there is no data security because it goes right back through ByteDance. But ByteDance itself is an instrumentality of the Chinese Communist Party. One last point. You know, Senator Mark Warner, Virginia, agrees with you and me and others. I think you're going to get some bipartisan action in the Senate, or at least I hope so. But I don't know why the Bidens haven't gotten rid of TikTok already. I mean, the states are leading the charge, as is often the case.
Listen, the president needs to step up because China is a threat to us. And as you very clearly point out, the capability that the CCP has because of TikTok, they can know everything about what you're doing, where you're going, what you're saying, and monitor every aspect of your daily lives. And that's just extraordinarily threatening and dangerous, and the kind of thing that we need to shut down.
Now, just to be clear, your executive order in Texas for government employees to erase the app, is that the idea? And will there be penalties if people do not do that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's an executive order that all employees must comply with. And these are all employees of the state of Texas and all state agencies. And then also, I'm calling for legislation. We have a legislative session beginning next month. And I'm calling for legislation for a more comprehensive approach by the entire state of Texas in addressing the threats posed by TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, I think at some point, everybody has to deal with there should be no apps, no TikTok app. Just get rid of it altogether. Toss it out of the country. I mean, really. And by the way, your other point, TikTok has a way of luring kids with sexual-related pictures and ads and whatnot on this TikTok to sort of bring them in and then learn more about them. I mean, it's a pretty grotesque, disgusting operation. Chinese communists.
Right. And because of that content, listen, China can influence the young generation in the United States of America without the young generation knowing and perhaps without their parents knowing, and influence them in ways so that they can alter the United States and maybe even conquer it without ever firing a bullet. This is a very dangerous thing that we need to address in every state across the country.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Texas Governor Greg Abbott, we appreciate it very, very much. Thank you.